man. I just don't get. Hey, by the way, we got a friend here on the is ready to roll. Marshall Harris, there he is. Marshall Harris joining us.
He's got that look. Look, he got that look on his face too.
Hey,
I know that. I know that look.
I know that look.
I enjoy a plate of crow as much as the next man. I will admit I was wrong. The Eagles won the game. I stand by what I said.
Stop. I don't want you to do that because I want to gloat a little more. You're trying to
Barrett wants to pound the flesh. You want to pound the flesh, Marshall. Here we go.
Don't take my shine. I'm just saying I was wrong. A lot of people in life, I know you guys have experienced this, whether it's relationships, whether it's work, whatever, friendships. They can't admit cleanly they're wrong. They'll make an excuse. Listen, I was wrong. I stand by what I said. Like, I thought that the Bears had a great chance to beat the Eagles. They did. They didn't get the job done. Bottom line.
Right.
Marshall, here to your point. I think it's everybody in life, but generally the worst are sports, either talk show hosts or prognosticators. It's okay to say, you know what? I didn't think so-and-so could play. He proved me wrong. Look at what he's doing. You know what that does? It makes you more relatable and human because we all miss on stuff. I mean, how many different things, whether it's sports or not, that you're like, at first you maybe had a different view. And by the way, sometimes your opinion evolves and you grow on something and you see more. Like, I'm sure people wrote Trevor Lawrence off. Look at what that dude's doing the last.
Look at him.
You know what I'm saying? So
quarterbacks take time to develop.
Exactly.
You guys are enjoying the development of a quarterback that I don't know how many people who are watching right now were like, he's not the guy. Horrible mistake. Howie misses again. Like, whatever. But right now, and maybe he never wins a championship in an Eagles uniform, but he looks pretty good.
Yeah.
From where I'm sitting.
Yes.
He can't. And also, he's not the one calling the plays at last check and saying, hey, Miles Sanders, why don't you just hang out over there? We'll call you, maybe midway through the second quarter.
And that, Marshall, that was really – it's the first time, at least in a long time, or maybe this year, that I really had a beef with the play calling, like in general. I thought most of the year they've done a pretty good job mixing and matching, but that was till 6:34 in the second quarter. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and like I said, you guys pointed to – Jalen Hurts doesn't turn the ball over. I said, sounds like he's due to me. I explained how the Bears had gotten healthy and they were going to be hungry, and everything comes to fruition in that respect. But at the end of the day, once Jack Sanborn went down,
that was huge.
Like, because you saw the plays he was making early in that game. Like,
he's good, man.
Chasing down Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Once he goes down, Tevin Jenkins, who's been great, goes down and is carted off. Hopefully, he's
what was his injury? What was his injury?
A neck injury. They took him to the hospital, but signs are pointing up. We'll get an update from Eberflus today. But once those things started rolling, and it's not like Jalen Johnson didn't do a good job on AJ Brown early. It's just like once you get worn down, I have a rule. It's a very simple rule. As a Bills fan, as you guys know, I grew up a Bills fan, so I know what quarterback play looks like when you're trying to get your quarterback and you go through all those iterations until you get the guy, aka Josh Allen, and in your case, Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields here. If Nathan Peterman takes a snap in a game, you ain't gonna win. Is that fair?
No, that's right. You're right. I will say this to your credit, though.
At least
although he did throw a double coverage, which was, I don't know what the heck he was thinking, but I will say this to your credit, though, Marshall. The Bears get down to the 14, and the Eagles sack them, and they take them out of field goal range. That could have been 3 points. If the Eagles were thinking on the 3rd and 6 are just going to pick up necessary yards just to keep a drive moving, no, they go deep and hit AJ down the sideline for a 68-yard gain. Those two plays, it could have been – now, what if the pass is incomplete, too far out of bounds? Now you look at the 4th and 6 to get the ball back to Chicago again. Chicago's not a potent offense, but they can do enough damage with the quarterback to make it could have been a different ball game. You
saw the receiving core he was working with, right? Just so we're all clear.
Equimini and St. Brown makes one catch. He's out with a concussion. Dude, you had guys dropping all over the field that game.
Listen, so like I said, I stand by what I say. Ultimately, I was wrong. Oh, well, I'm really not sweating it. I will say this. The play calling, as Rob alluded to, I don't know. Because people have been asking me, well, I've been on shows all the last 7 days talking about this. And I'm just like, I think the Eagles have as good a shot as anyone is winning the Super Bowl. And really in the NFC, the only team that I like on their level is the 49ers. You know, I saw the Eagles are dogs this week, and I was like,
they are.
If I was a betting man, I would take that. After watching what happened to the Cowboys, no. And in the ultimate picture, Bears fans are super happy this morning. You know why? Justin Fields becomes the third quarterback ever to rush for 1,000 yards. He's got Lamar Jackson's single-season rushing record for a quarterback in his sights, and they just keep taking L's. And I don't know if y'all saw, but the Denver Broncos found a way to win, and now they're in the driver's seat for the number 2 overall pick. And the Texans have been playing really well. Now they need to win 2 of their last 3. But like the Eagles, the Bears are looking back to week 3, and they're like, dang, if we had just lost that game to the Texans, number 1 pick, and they don't need a quarterback, so they could trade back. It's a good Monday to be a Philadelphian or a Chicago.
Well, let me hit you with this, Marshall. You can there's a lot of things you can look at on a football team, but 2 basic tenets. If you have a good quarterback and you have a pass rush, you got a chance to be a pretty good team. And they were both on full display. I know Jalen made a couple mistakes early. One, that's not necessarily his fault, but the pass rush is ferocious. And that dude doesn't sweat anything. He's got amnesia, and he just makes plays. So there's so many reasons to be optimistic here if you're an Eagles fan.
Yeah, I'll say this. He has what seems to be that cornerback mentality, like an all-pro cornerback. Occasionally I'm going to get burned. I'm going to make a mistake, whatever. We got to line up and do it again, and I got to do better next time. Like Jalen Hurts, laser focused. Now, what was interesting to me is he talked about how he couldn't feel his hands when he came out.
Yeah.
So it was 18 degrees at kickoff, wind chill of 3 degrees. It's going to be even worse this week when Buffalo comes to town. They're calling for like somewhere between 18 to 28 inches of snow.
Where, in Chicago?
What? Yeah. Like it's a premature model. Until we're 72 hours out, that's when you get like the real forecast. But like that's what was on the 7-day last night when I was in studio, and I was like, man, y'all catch me inside, not catch me outside. Catch me inside. How about that?
Forget that mess.
So based on what you guys are looking at with the quarterback play, he's got weapons. The pass rush is just ferocious. Back to what I was saying about Hurts, he said he couldn't feel his hands, and that's why some of his touch passes for both quarterbacks were a little bit off, I think, in that game. Passes you're like, why did he not make that play? But at the end of the job, he lays one in there to A.J. Brown over Jalen Johnson, who had 3 pass breakups. Like, the Bears are not as good as the Eagles. They don't have as much talent. I just thought it was a perfect storm, and now the Eagles weathered that. Ain't nobody got to worry about them getting up for Michael Parsons and them. They get number 1 team with a win over Dallas. Like that's how you set it up right there.
Well, I mean, it just goes to show the Eagles know how to win. They know how to take adversity and punch back. You know what I'm saying? They can counter punch adversity. And that's the big thing. The adversity was you had a Chicago Bear team that had 2 weeks to develop a game plan in which they made Jalen Hurts pull the ball from Miles Sanders, which, you know, basically just kept him from being a huge factor in the first half. All they did was just keep him doing it by crashing the end and then having the linebackers, you know, kind of mirror wherever Jalen went. And it worked for the first half until the second half they started handing it off. Excuse me. But, I mean, the biggest thing is they took adverse conditions as far as weather being, you know, so cold, you know what I'm saying, he couldn't even touch. You know, and I tell people this all the time. When you're cold out there, there's nobody who loves cold weather. If they say they do, they're lying. Even offensive linemen hate cold weather. We're out there with no sleeves on like some damn nuts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for mental purposes, right, Barry?
Right.
You're like, yeah, it's cold, and we got job to do.
It's not like we liking it. Like I'm not going to the club chilling in a cutoff shirt. You know what I'm saying? It's just not happening. But you know, you have to take that adversity and learn from it and become what I think this was a learning experience for this team. They learned, all right, don't look past anybody. Regardless of the matchup you're about to have, you can't look past anybody. We fought through, we won the game. Dallas, they couldn't fight through it. They lost the game. Period.
Dallas blew a 17-point lead in that game.
Yeah, I mean,
that tells you how much of a sieve their defense.
Look no further than the Chiefs that had to survive the Texans, who we were talking about a little bit earlier in overtime. It happens every week. This stuff.
That's why the NFL is the greatest. You know, in a time in which we take not for granted, but like sports comes on all the time. I hate the whole week build up to get to the next game.
Exactly.
Gunner knows I hate covering football for that very specific reason. My ADHD kicks in. I was like, I need a game to talk about today. Like, I don't want to spend 3 or 4 days talking about the last game and then another 3 or 4 days talking about the next game. But for fans who for 17 weeks, they're just like up on their, like, you get ready for game day. It becomes an event. It becomes like an old school gladiator matchup, and it doesn't happen every day. So it's not an everyday thing. So you don't take it for granted because you only got 8 or 9 home games and experiences where you get with your people, you go support your team. And then of course the playoffs is a whole different animal, but like the NFL, they're kind of genius. Like, and they're not the best league in the world because like the way they handle things and do things and like no fun league. But at the end of the day, ain't nobody really walking away and saying, I'm not going to watch. You're going to watch.
Yeah. The formula of the wait, the formula of the look back and then the look ahead is brilliant. It's not saturated like anything else. I'm with you, Marshall. Like by Friday, especially in our line of business, it's like, what else can we talk about here, man?
Enough is enough.
But from a fan standpoint, it's that build, man. And then it's the crescendo of the game. I mean, just look at the way this weekend went, how insane these games were from the jump. I mean, from Saturday in Minnesota to close out last night.
Yo, the Minnesota game. I believe you guys have already talked about and everything, but like I was watching that. I was at work and I was just like, I don't know that Minnesota is going to lose this game. Like, I was like, all they got to do, I was like, I know they can score on the Colts. It's just, will they have enough time? And the Colts were just like, here, have an opportunity. Here, have an opportunity. And they just couldn't put them away. I was just amazed by that. By the way, I'm looking at these comments over here, which are hilarious. They're getting on me about talking about Fields being a 1,000-yard rusher. I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty big deal. And I know y'all got 1,000-yard rushers, receivers, quarterbacks scoring 8,000 touchdowns rushing. But I'm just, look, if you're put yourself in you know what? This is my one issue with Philadelphia fans, right? They lack empathy. Okay, they really lack empathy because your tunnel vision is so strong. They lack 2 things: they lack empathy and they lack apathy. The apathy thing is my favorite thing because they're never gonna like not stop talking about a team. A team can be terrible, but they're gonna let you know how they feel and they still care. And they're 10-72, but doggone it, these Sixers, what are they gonna do with that first round pick, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they lack empathy. Like, this is hilarious. A year ago, half these people in the comments were on Jalen Hurts' tail.
Absolutely.
About Absolutely. And now I'm just saying, Justin Fields is in the same position. He has no help.
Right.
He's keeping them in a game with a 13-1 team, and these cats, yo, y'all are hilarious.
We don't get with the empathy thing. We don't have that empathy stuff, man.
Yeah, they really. But it's like empathy, like open-ended empathy. It's like you've been through this. If anything, you should understand where these guys are coming from.
But see, you got to explain to them your team, though.
My team? I explained my team very simply.
Right, the cold weather team.
I hope we see y'all. Buffalo Bills. I hope we see y'all.
It's been. I ain't gonna lie, it's not him just getting on the band. Since I met him back in 2015, he has been with the Buffalo Bills. I don't see why or how.
Oh, Gunner can validate that.
Ever since that, I used to tease him all the time. I said, "How are you from Birmingham, Alabama?"
Right.
I'm from Huntsville. You're right.
Huntsville,
capital of the South.
Yeah, Huntsville. How are you from Huntsville, Alabama? You're a Buffalo Bills fan in football. Who's your baseball team?
Chicago White Sox. Because I did live in Birmingham until I was 10. So,
and who's your basketball team?
Run TMC forever, baby. Don Nelson, my favorite coach of all time, first one to 100 wins. Once that man said those words, as a kid, offense, that's what matters.
Hey, you know, I covered Don Nelson for many years.
Yes.
For 5 years, I covered him in Milwaukee. One of my favorite coaches of all time.
He keeps it real. He lets you know what was good.
Yep.
Look, man, I'm from Alabama, okay? I didn't grow up jaded and cursed like certain fans did.
Whoa!
It's not like I went around picking winners. I could have been like, I'm a Bulls fan. That's not what I did. You know, Jordan was doing his thing. I was like, my dad took me to Birmingham Barons games. That's how I became a White Sox fan.
Yep.
Don Nelson. Like those Warriors teams weren't even good.
What was the Bill connection?
He lasted for 2 years. People forget. It was only a 2-year thing with Mitch Richmond, Tim Hardaway, and Chris Mullin. But they were exciting. scoring 135 and giving up 142. But that was exciting to me.
He said Miss Richmond, K-State's finest, huh?
There you go.
Yes, there you go. Like that's what I'm saying. But here's the thing. I love Philadelphia fans, and I know y'all. I know secretly deep down y'all love me too because I love y'all. And I give y'all respect. I stick up for y'all whenever someone says something sideways about the city of Philadelphia. What?
That's you do, man. But
all right, Marshall, let me ask you this because I've asked these two guys this for 2 shows now, and you were in Philadelphia what 10 years? How long were you there?
11 years.
Okay, 11 years. So you got a good perspective of it. And I want your perspective because you always have a different perspective. I've never understood how everybody on the outside looking in has such a disdain for Philadelphia and its teams, more so than any other city I've ever been associated with. From the media standpoint to outside fans looking in, they just refuse to give Philadelphia respect for anything.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think it's a combination of things. It's like New York bias is so strong no matter where you are. That's where all the decision makers are. That's where the league headquarters are. Like the New York bias is a real thing. You could see it in the national with the like ESPN. The New York bias, like look at where their personalities are from that are calling the shots and doing things. People are openly talking about my New York Knicks, whether it's Stephen A. Smith or whoever else, Mike Greenberg, like the guys who are like the biggest voices and faces of these national places, they've got East Coast bias. Also, that creates like this little brother syndrome because it's like Philly, New York. Philly's not New York. It will never be New York. And I don't want to live in New York. I love Philly. Like people are like, do you want to go work in New York? I was like, why? So I can pay overpriced for everything.
Yep.
And then people don't care about sports as much as in New York as they do in Philly. Like I always tell you, there's a pie. And if you take a piece of the pie, how big is the sliver of people that don't care about sports? Like in New York, there's other stuff going on that's like more pressing. Same thing with LA. They're bigger cities. And even here in Chicago, you could be a Cubs fan. You could be a White Sox fan. In Philly, everyone's united behind the same 4, 5, 6 teams. And I think that's important. And that's what that builds that common, you're not going to talk about us anyway. My favorite story about Philadelphia fandom and kind of trying to relate it to the national types is the story of Gritty. Okay. You guys remember when the Flyers unveiled Gritty?
Yep.
By 9 a.m., everyone in Philadelphia was going off about how awful Gritty was. By noon, those same people were defending Gritty as if he was their grandfather. Okay? Like, and that is Philly in a nutshell right there. Is it not?
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. I don't think you're saying anything that's wrong. I think it's a good assessment. I think it's a good assessment.
We're not gonna let anybody else talk about our crazy uncle but us.
Yes.
You know, so we love our crazy uncle. So we don't that's just who it is, bro.
I love my crazy uncle Gunner.
Wow, that's different. That's a whole different story. Yes. Well, you know, crazy Uncle Gunner's bringing good food, though. At least
really?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Look, Gunner knows. I'll side text. I have his wife's number. I'll go right around him.
That's true. Marshall had those ribs. Do you have the ribs, Marshall?
I've had those ribs on more than one occasion, bro.
Me too. Like, but people don't understand. You can't ask Gunner.
No, you can't ask.
He's always gonna say no.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? we know where to go.
Yeah. I have Gunner's address saved in his contact info. I will stop by the house. He's lucky I come to Philly and I don't have a car. Because if I had a car, you know, I'm down there in Delaware. I know which of the 3 counties you live in, sir.
I did too.
Don't be putting my business out on the street. Don't be putting my business in the street.
Look. That's what the last time he shot me the address. I locked it in and put it in the context. Now it says his name and his address there. So he can't just, unless he just up and moves, I'm there this summer.
Marshall,
get on the new deck.
Marshall, this dude got the nerve. He'll text my daughter, my son-in-law. He got all these numbers now. I'm like, hold up, man.
I'm going.
He collecting gun contact info like in Stones. He's like, I got another one.
Look, I'm about to get.
Free rip the Gunners.
I'm getting a pole barn built. I've been texting his son-in-law for the past 3 days about this pole barn he got. You know what I mean? So we've been texting back and forth about the pole barn the process he went through.
I'm like, leave my family alone, man. We ain't do nothing to you.
Oh my God.
It's like, see, to me, it's always like church and state. Right. I keep work and business, work and pleasure separate. That's just my MO. But you two assassins found a way to slip behind the back door. You two assassins. Oh, I got Trisha's number. I got the kids' numbers. I got Trisha's number. I'm like,
I'm a giver of life, not a taker of life, Gunner. I give people life wherever I go. That's what I try to do. Hopefully I've enriched yours.
Look, both of y'all, man. Anytime I think of both of you, it's that song "Slipping in the Darkness." That's what I think. Yes, both of them.
Slipping in the darkness.
Yeah, y'all both backdoored me, got to my family. You went around me. Not many people can say they can do that.
Oh man,
Marshall,
I appreciate it. Look.
I know you miss these. You miss Gunner's insanity, Barrett's insanity.
Can we reconnect when the Bills face the Eagles in the Super Bowl, though?
Yes, because that will be the all-timer in terms of craziness. In Arizona's not going to know what hit them with those two.
I think Bills will literally ship out their tables with them.
I agree.
Oh, no question about that.
They should
properly tailgate in Glendale.
As they should.
I think the daily fights in the street will be probably tougher than the game. Because the Bills Mafia is crazy. Philadelphia fans are crazy. I think there'll be more swinging in the streets than there will be swinging on the field.
This will be an all-timer. All right, Marshall, it's a date, man. It's a date. Super Bowl week leading up. I'm sure you'll figure out a way to get down there. We'll talk to you from press row or wherever we're going to be or you're going to be. We'll figure it out.
I'm going to look into it. But, guys, I just want to say thanks for having me back on. I know people probably thought you're really going to go in there and take the heat. I was like, I'm not worried about that.
I think you'd show up.
Bears lost.
Marshall, man.
I told you there's no way they were going to get blown out. I did explain that very clearly. Right?
None of us worried about you showing up. Okay. Let me put it to you that way.
So no question. I knew you show up.
Yes. Marshall, good job, man. Good hanging with you again.
Derek, I hope y'all have a wonderful and much warmer than me week.
Yes, man.
And
Merry Christmas, happy holidays too.
Hey man, how you come to Philly and don't rent a car, man? That's cheap. How you come to Philly and don't rent a car?
What happened? He's gone.
He just jumped.
He rolled, man. Yeah, he dropped the mic and just got out.
Oh,
he had enough of your questions.
Jeez.
Yes, he did. All right. Again, Marshall's always good sport, man. And look, he
drove to Indiana to get gas this morning because gas is in Chicago. Gas is $4.15. Now, I will say this: downtown Chicago to Gary, Indiana, was only like a 30-minute drive. The problem is because I've driven this road many times. I-94 going through downtown Chicago for the last 30 years is always under construction for 30 years. And Chicago's like it's like a parking lot downtown, mostly any time of the day. I hated that drive when I was in Pittsburgh, and I would drive from Pittsburgh into up to Milwaukee. I would take Interstate 80. Once you got to Illinois, it was I-94. And once you hit downtown Chicago, it didn't make a difference if it was morning, afternoon, or night. You're gonna be stopped in traffic like an hour longer than you should be. Yeah, so he go to Indiana. He went to Indiana to get gas.
God bless him, man. That's awesome.
I'm telling you, man. Marshall gonna save $1. That dude, you take $1 out of his pocket, he has sunglasses on, man. I'm telling you.
I love it.
Weeks.
I love it. All right. We're going to come back and we're going to get into all the craziness that was all the games. And we're not done with the Eagles, too. We will circle back to the Eagles as well. But there was a lot of stuff that went down. Let's start with the Cowboys when we come back, who coughed it up in overtime. Dougie P still paying dividends, man.
Yeah, he is.
Still doing his thing. Did you see him after that on the sidelines after they scored? It was awesome.
He still got the rivalry in him, man. He still got that rivalry.
That'll never leave him, Barrett. That will never, ever leave him. That's for sure. All right, we'll come back and we'll hit that and all the other stuff in the NFL. Barrett Brooks, Derek Gunn, Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. All right, I'm going to talk Razor technology with you right now because IT infrastructure environments are more complex and heterogeneous than ever before. Consequently, teams struggle to respond to pressing issues with the speed necessary to promote positive business results. And the data that powers predictive monitoring and automation is often left unexploited. Razor Technology addresses this challenge with a holistic approach that connects every part of an organization's technology assets, enabling proactive and secure IT operations without sacrificing the agility that drives innovation. Razor Technology automates monitoring and management to bolster IT teams that are feeling stretched thin. And it improves auditing and reporting procedures so that actionable insights find their way to the leaders that need them most. Save time and money on your IT and cloud services and secure organizations with leading end-to-end infrastructure solutions by calling Razor Tech today at 866-797-3282, 866-797-3282, or visit them online at razor-tech.com. That's razor-tech.com.
Post-game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.